Hello everyone and welcome back. In this video, I'm going to talk about the Baker Act and the Voluntary Admission Agreement and why you should never, ever sign a voluntary admission agreement. Now, in the past, I have probably filed about 500 cases at this point to get people out of an illegal detention. And in all that time, only one time did I ever permit a client to sign a voluntary admission agreement. And that was specifically when the doctor who was refusing to let the client go said to me, if they sign a voluntary admission agreement, I will let them go. And I said, well, if that's the case, put it in writing. If you mean what you say and you do what you claim, send me an email confirming that. And if you do, I'll counsel the client to sign it, on the understanding that you will release her immediately. And he did. And she signed and she was released immediately. And the reason that he did that was because he didn't want any documentation in the file to reflect the fact that he had illegally detained her in violation of her rights. But during COVID, we were inundated with people who were showing up in emergency rooms and various clinics because they couldn't get in to see their general practitioner or their clinician because they were having issues such as their meds no longer worked or they just didn't feel good, things of that nature. And the reason for this video is that I just got a call just a day or two ago from somebody who went to a facility for that specific reason. They went to an emergency room for that reason. Their medications weren't working. In fact, these were medications for a medical issue. They weren't feeling well, and they went to the hospital and they said to admissions, I don't feel well. And they said to her, do you want somebody to review your medications to see if they need to be changed? And she said, absolutely. And they said, do you have health insurance? She said, I do. Here's my insurance card. And they said, sign here. So she did, not knowing what she had signed. It wasn't explained to her. And they said, we need to send you to another facility so that we can have the assessment for your medications done. And she said, okay, that sounds good. And the next thing you know, she's being placed in an ambulance and transported from the hospital to a Baker Act receive facility. Now, this is a facility I have litigated against many, many times. They are unscrupulous, and there is no way they're going to let her go. And so what happened was they transported her there, and the doctor said, well, here's your choice. You can either re-sign the voluntary admission agreement, or I'm going to involuntarily detain you. And the family said, what should we do? And I said, well, just understand something. Number one, there's two types of Baker Act here in Florida, voluntary and involuntary. And also understand that she shouldn't sign the voluntary admission agreement because at least if you're involuntary, the 72-hour clock is ticking. When you're voluntary, there's no clock ticking. The detention is potentially indefinite. And so I want the clock to tick, at least so we can be in a position where the facility either has to file to keep you or let you go or get you to consent to be on a voluntary admission basis. I said, but here's the bottom line. She's not coming home whether she signs or doesn't sign. I know this facility. They're going to look to keep her. And so we need to file to get her out, and we need to do it now. Otherwise, she's going to get stuck. And I said, she's got health insurance. This facility loves people with health insurance. And whether she signs or doesn't sign, she's probably not going to get out, and they're probably going to file to keep her. So at least let's get the clock ticking. But the bottom line here is she's been tricked. She's been coerced. Nobody knows she's there. You can't sue them for this stuff. And so we got to get her out, and we got to get her out soon before she gets stuck for a longer period of time. And so that is my 2 cents on the voluntary admission agreement. Don't sign it. Doesn't mean if you don't sign it, you're coming home, but you give me something to play with. You give me an argument to make to a court. So with that said, thanks for tuning in. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.